Hi, Jack. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Elisha. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. And you see, it has become an anthem, okay? Because I do it often. I love to thank my guests for two main things. So, firstly, Jack, I want to thank you for investing in yourself. You see, Jack, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Jack, some months back, I was on this particular road, and just by the roadside, there is this tall mango tree. And you see, the mango tree didn't catch my attention. Why? Because it's got no mangoes on it. So I just walked past it, and you see, I just went my way. But you see, just recently, I was on that same road, Jack, and this time around, man, something changed. You see, I sat at the mango tree from a distance. It caught my attention pretty good from a distance. Then instantly, I got the urge to move closer and have a good look. When I got closer, Jack, I was wowed. You know why? Because this time around, the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. And not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. And it looked so attractive and beautiful. I was just staring at the mango and staring at the beautiful tree, and it looked so amazing. My point is the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person you are today. That alone has made it so impossible for me to skip you. So you see, I was attracted to the amazing stuffs you're doing, your philosophy, your understanding, and the stuffs and the impact that what you're doing is having on folks and all. So it caught my attention pretty good. And I've got to say thank you
All right.
for,
Well, let,
yeah.
let,
Okay,
let
you
me
want to say
say,
something?
let me say you caught my attention pretty good too. I looked at your LinkedIn profile just a little while ago, and you have a lot of
Oh,
wisdom on
yeah.
there,
Wow, thank you,
especially the
man.
difference
Thank you.
between a job and your life's work.
Hmm, thank
Huge,
you.
huge difference, and important to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Jack. I love that. Thank you so much. So, thank you for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for being on the show. You know, thank you for saying yes to the invite. If you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. So, thank you so very much. I truly appreciate that. So, to get started with Jack, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. All right, firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Jack, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. Not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, Jack, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. Now, the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Jack on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, Jack, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So, these folks trust me for quality information. And I am totally convinced, Jack, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, Jack, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. You know, we are just so curious, right? We want to know how you got here. Then, afterwards, I've gotten some really beautiful questions for you. Okay, Jack, over to you.
Okay, so, well, we've only got 20 minutes for the whole show, so I can't go back into a whole lot of detail, but I can tell you that what I'm about now and what my life's work really has been for a long time has been to talk about what really is going on in the lives of men and boys and to apply some knowledge to our understanding of what's going on with men and boys. Typically, it's said that it's a man's world and men have all the power and men have all of the advantages. And in some ways, that's true, but in many important ways, it's not true. And you mentioned the idea of chaos a little while ago. I think a lot of chaos occurs in modern society when we operate on the idea that men have all the power and women have none. It's nonsensical. And in computer jargon, people say garbage in, garbage out. If you put bad information into a computer, you're going to get bad decisions out of it. So my calling, my mission is, as nicely as I can, but a lot of people are very impossible to please on that scale, that front. As nicely as I can, I try to call attention to the fact that women have a lot of power. And in some ways, men don't have very much. And just as men sometimes use the power they do have in bad ways, women sometimes use the power they have in bad ways that tend to disadvantage us and cause us to be unhappy in our lives and, hurt people. And I'm interested in trying to advance men's ability to be who they want to be, far beyond where we are in many ways. Focusing on the idea that we just mentioned a minute ago of the job. And our job as men is to have a job and make money, even though that might not really be what we want to do and what we really think our calling is. And I think that in many ways, the calling of men that is sort of downplayed a lot is to be family people, to raise kids, to help with family life, community life, social life, to talk about relationships and our feelings and what we believe completely outside of how we make money. And that's what I want to emphasize in men's lives, is the ability to have full emotional lives, regardless of how much money that makes.
And you see, that's a great one, because I am of the belief that if we can get all of the men function right, then maybe we may not have as much trouble as we have in the world today. And I said that for a reason, because I believe we have terrorists, we have prostitutes, armed robbers, and all these bad things that people do. At times because many of the fathers weren't available to play their role as father. And that's going to lead to this very first question, of which I feel like you are one of the most important assets to planet Earth because of what you're doing. And that's a great job, Jack. I love it. Thank you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay, yeah, the first question, all right. Why is fatherhood the central issue for men? Okay, whether they are fathers or not. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, I can. Let's go back to what life was like for women 50, 60 years ago. Now, you're in Kenya, I'm in the United States. I don't know how much similarity there is between our two societies. I think there's probably, a fair amount, but I can only talk with any kind of knowledge about what's the history of the United States. 60 years ago, when the women's movement was getting started, women had a lot of things that they very rightly wanted to change, because 60 years ago, a woman's place was in the home. And there were a lot of women who were very happy staying home, taking care of the kids. That fulfilled them. They loved that. That was fine. But there were also a lot of women who didn't want to stay home and raise kids. They wanted to be scientists and politicians and lawyers and doctors and astronauts and airline pilots. It was wasteful of our society's resources to prevent women from doing that kind of thing. So, whether women wanted to be astronauts or not, or whether they wanted to be CEOs of big corporations or not, it was important for all women that some women had the opportunity to be CEOs if they wanted to be. It was about, what do we recognize as the capabilities of women? What do we make of all of the stereotypes that say women are weak and they're silly and they're not logical? What do we do with all of those stereotypes that tend to limit women into a very small, tight box? So we've made a lot of changes in 60 years for the options that women can pursue. We need to do the same now for men. And I believe that whether men want to be fathers or not, it's important for all men that fatherhood be recognized as something that men can be really, really good at, being nurturing, kind, gentle, loving, patient, even though it doesn't make a lot of money, that it's important for all men to be recognized as fully capable, equal parents, as mothers, as women. Because if we're accepted as fully equal fathers, we're accepted as fully equal, nurturing, gentle, kind, caring, wise, whether we're fathers or not. And being recognized as a kind, caring, thoughtful, wise, patient person, that can help you no matter what you want to do, even if it's not to be a father. That's what I think.
Amazing. I got that. And I love how you went backwards 60 years back, and that made it quite easy to understand. I got that. So let us talk about toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. Can you talk to us about it?
Yeah. Originally, the idea of toxic masculinity isn't what we generally think of now. Originally, the term toxic masculinity was a way of talking about how the expectations of men and the limitations placed on men were not healthy for us. But people who don't like men seized upon the phrase toxic masculinity in a way to just sort of suggest that masculinity itself is toxic and men are toxic. To me, that's way wrong. I mean, that's like looking into a lake and seeing the fish are all poisoned. And we all know, don't eat the poisoned fish in that lake. But it's not because the fish are toxic, it's because the lake is toxic. And being confined to that lake causes the fish to be inedible. We as men are in sort of a lake that is not optimal for our health. It requires us to be tough, competitive, and that being tough and competitive is not bad. It can be good. But being tough and competitive 24/7, 365 is not good for anybody's health. So, the expectation that we're going to be making money, we're not going to take any guff off of anybody, we're going to stand up for ourselves, we're going to fight, we're going to be mean if we have to be, and also be mean when we don't have to be, because we don't want to be seen as chumps or weak. The idea that we always have to come across as strong, that's toxic. And it's not masculinity that's toxic, it's the cultural expectations in 2024 that are toxic. And we need to clean up the lake that men are living in. And the way you clean up the lake is, with some biodiversity. Give us more options. Don't make us swim in a lake that's just sometimes very mean and harsh for men. And, it's kind of primitive in a lot of ways, the expectations on men. The idea that keeps occurring to me is that back in our primitive days as a human species, the general role of the women was to stay at home with the kids around the campfire. Now, we've talked about how that can be very limiting, but it can also be pretty nice. The primitive role of men was to be away from the campfire, out on the periphery, keeping an eye out for the lions and tigers that wanted to come in and eat us. And that was our job, to be on the periphery, to be away from the campfire, away from the kids. That's how we showed our love for our kids, by being away from them to protect them. We don't need to keep doing that. A society, civilization, the human race has come a long way from there, but still there's a lot of primitiveness in the cultural assignments that men are forced to accept. Does that make sense?
A lot, man. A lot. Okay, what about the feminine aspect? Can you talk to us about that?
Well, the feminine aspect of toxic femininity? Is that what you mean?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, women are human. And, I talk about toxic femininity, not to say that women are toxic, but to say that women are human. And what's toxic about the current culture in which women find themselves is that they often have to sort of pretend that they are much better than men. more loving than men, more wonderful than men, more kind than men, more honest than men. And, when the stereotype of women is that they're perfect and wonderful and never do anything bad, they can get away with murder. And I mean, even literally, they can get away with murder. In the United States, it's pretty well documented that women get punished much less severely for the same crimes as men do. And so, the ability to be bad, to be antisocial, to be harmful without having any repercussions befall you for your bad behavior, that's a formula for, inviting women to be toxic, to be harmful, to be mean, especially to men. But I don't think women are inherently toxic any more than I think men are inherently toxic. It's the culture in which we currently are operating. And the culture we're currently operating in for women is women are perfect. I mean, there's even a poster in the United States that actually says women are perfect. It's just, it's toxic for anybody to think that they're perfect.
Very, very toxic, man. I tell you, man, oh man. You see, it is very, very interesting to listen to you speak because you are speaking from a very clear perspective and your words are filled with the truth. That part where you mentioned that in some years ago that women are to stay with the kids and fend and feed the kids and outside, and the men are to protect the family. So they protect the family by staying away from the family. And that philosophy has become a pattern that has moved from generation to generation. And I really, really felt that. I really felt that. And you see, when I noticed some stuff in my cultural beliefs, and I said to myself, I said, I'm never going to be like this to my kids. Never, never. Never going to take all of those beliefs that these guys had in this culture. Never. So I got that, Jack. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what we've talked about, or even ask some questions later, how can that be possible?
So, what I would like to leave your audience with is encouragement to say what you feel. And I know that there are a lot of men who really don't like hearing that we're toxic and we're bad and we're clueless when it comes to raising kids and we don't really love our kids. What we really love is drinking beer and, hanging around and chasing women and, all of that stuff. A lot of men don't like hearing that. And it's very difficult for us to challenge women who say that and believe that because women have a lot of power when it comes to emotions and words. So the encouragement would be you're entitled to your feelings. You're entitled to express your feelings. You're not entitled to always get your way, but you're entitled to express your feelings. And for men to be able to say, just very simply, to a woman who trashes men and says bad things about men and says perfectly wonderful things about women as if all women are always perfectly wonderful, men need to be able to say, I just disagree with you about that. And I hope one day we can have a calm conversation where I don't have to be afraid that you're going to attack me. That kind of thing. Just to start by saying, I really didn't appreciate that, and I think you're wrong. And maybe one day we can talk. That'd be a good start.
I got that. I got that. And that's so true. I had about one case like that where you're right. Women's got some powers when it comes to using emotions and all of that. She lied that the man raped her and it never occurred. It never occurred. And the man was punished for something he never did. And some years later, after some years, now the secret came out that she just lied. And so I got your point, that part where you said women have so much power when it comes to using emotions. And you say, I feel like several government in different part of the world needs to listen to this podcast. It will help them know how to create principles and laws that would kick out partiality and all of those things. So thank you so much, Jack. That's going to be the end of the show. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this amazing stuff with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That was